In a bold move that's already sending ripples across the global stage, Traoré's decision to ban Netanyahu from Africa has sparked intense debates, discussions, and even protests. The world is watching closely as this political earthquake shakes up international relations. But what does this truly mean for the future of Africa, Israel, and global diplomacy? The moment the announcement broke, it was as if the world held its breath. Traoré's decision to ban Netanyahu from stepping foot on African soil wasn't just a diplomatic maneuver, it was a declaration. For many in Africa, this was a direct response to Israel's controversial policies in the Middle East, particularly in Palestine. Leaders and citizens across the continent were quick to react, some hailing it as a victory for justice, while others questioned the broader implications for Africa's relationship with Israel and the West. Africa, a continent that has long struggled with its place in global politics, now found itself at the center of a seismic shift. Could Traoré's move be the catalyst for a new era of Pan-African unity, or would it isolate the continent even further on the world stage? As the news traveled from one nation to another, the reactions were mixed. In the streets of Johannesburg, protesters gathered in support, waving Palestinian flags and chanting slogans against Israel's actions. Meanwhile, in the corridors of power in Cairo and Addis Ababa, diplomats huddled in urgent meetings, trying to figure out what this bold step would mean for Africa's fragile alliances with both the US and Europe. Was this an act of solidarity with the Palestinian cause, or was Traoré using this moment to assert a more independent, African-centered foreign policy? The world was left to wonder, and the reactions came in waves. In the days that followed, the diplomatic fallout began to unfold. Israel's government issued a sharp condemnation of Traoré's decision, calling it an unwarranted and hostile act. The Israeli Prime Minister's office released statements claiming that Africa was jeopardizing its own economic future by turning its back on Israel, a nation that had long provided technological advancements, military cooperation, and economic aid to various African countries. But Traoré, known for his tough stance on global injustice, wasn't swayed. His supporters saw this as a critical moment for Africa to break free from the grip of Western influence, particularly when it came to matters concerning Palestine and human rights. At the heart of this decision, though, was a fundamental question. Can Africa afford to stand against Israel and its Western allies? Trade between Africa and Israel has been growing in recent years, and many African nations rely on Israel's agricultural technology, security partnerships, and diplomatic clout to secure their interests in a rapidly shifting world. But Traoré was willing to risk it all for what he perceived as a moral obligation to stand with the oppressed. This decision, which some viewed as reckless, was a challenge to the established geopolitical order and placed Africa in direct opposition to some of the world's most powerful nations. Meanwhile, the African Union convened an emergency summit to discuss Traoré's move. The room was filled with tension, as representatives from different nations debated the implications. Some African leaders voiced their support for Traoré, calling his actions a necessary step in redefining Africa's role in global politics. Others, however, expressed concern that the continent's economic and security needs could be compromised if they alienated Israel and its Western allies. The dilemma was clear. Should Africa prioritize moral solidarity with Palestine, or should it continue to deepen ties with Israel for economic and security reasons? For many, the conversation wasn't just about Israel or Palestine, it was about Africa's future. With China's growing influence on the continent, along with the steady expansion of Russian presence, Africa was navigating a complex web of competing global powers. Some analysts saw Traoré's ban as a strategic move to align more closely with countries like China, which had long supported Africa's push for greater autonomy and fairer trade agreements. However, the potential consequences were significant. Would the ban strengthen Africa's geopolitical position, or would it isolate the continent further, leaving it vulnerable to future diplomatic and economic fallout? The global reaction was swift and far-reaching. In Washington, political analysts debated Traoré's move on every major news network, with commentators split on whether this was a bold stance for human rights or a dangerous step towards political isolation. Some experts warned that this ban could set a dangerous precedent for diplomatic relations worldwide, suggesting that it might embolden other countries to make similarly dramatic moves. Others applauded the move as a long-overdue correction in global politics, where countries with human rights abuses often escape international censure. On social media, the hashtag Traoré takes a stand trended, with many supporting his defiance of Western pressure. In the Middle East, the news had a ripple effect. Palestinian leaders praised Traoré's actions as a powerful message to Israel and the world. This wasn't just a symbolic gesture. It was a clear alignment with the Palestinian cause in the ongoing struggle for justice and peace. The ban served as a reminder that Africa's voice mattered in the international conversation, and that solidarity with oppressed nations could come at a price. As tensions rose and the world reacted, one thing was certain. This move had ignited a firestorm that would have lasting repercussions for years to come. As the months passed, the political winds began to shift once again. Traoré's bold decision had sparked not only debates but also concrete changes in how Africa viewed its role on the world stage. Some countries, inspired by his courage, began to push for more assertive foreign policies of their own. Others, however, chose to tread carefully, worried about the long-term consequences of taking sides in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. One thing became abundantly clear. Africa's political landscape was evolving, and the continent was ready to take its place as a key player in global diplomacy. As we look ahead, Traoré's ban on Netanyahu may just be the beginning of a larger movement, a movement in which Africa asserts its independence and moral leadership on the world stage. If you're passionate about staying informed on the latest developments in global politics, subscribe to our channel. We dive deep into the stories that shape the future, bringing you expert insights and up-to-the-minute analysis. Don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button now and stay ahead of the curve.